Why do Democrats and anti-gun politicians just hate us so much? Another violent attack at Penn Station raises a major question. 5 people stabbed, 1 victim slashed across the face, others stabbed in the neck. And it all happened inside one of the busiest transportation hubs in America. Yet, despite another horrific act of violence, the real question isn't just what happened, it's why law-abiding citizens are still forbidden from carrying firearms in places like this to defend themselves. Let's talk about it. According to reports, around 7 p.m. on Sunday evening, chaos erupted inside the New Jersey Transit course at New York City's Penn Station when a man allegedly launched a knife attack against multiple people. By the time it was over, 5 victims had been injured. 1 suffered serious wounds. Others received moderate and minor injuries. Photos released by media outlets showed 1 victim with a severe facial wound, while other victims were reportedly stabbed in the neck. But here is where the story becomes even more troubling. The subject wasn't some unknown first-time offender. Reports indicate he had a lengthy criminal history. Authorities say his record included multiple prior arrests involving aggravated assault, unlawful weapon possession, drug offenses, domestic violence, assault, and criminal mischief. Even more alarming, he had reportedly had a previous stabbing incident on his record in 2022. The suspect was accused of stabbing someone in Newmark, New Jersey. Despite that, reports indicate he received probation. Not prison, probation. And according to reports, he was also facing another active assault case at the time of this latest attack. So the obvious question becomes, how many warning signs are enough? How many chances does someone get before the system finally decides public safety matters? Why do they keep releasing all these criminals on the street over and over again? But while New York and New Jersey have struggled to keep repeat violent offenders off the streets, both states have remained laser focused on restricting the rights of law-abiding citizens. And that brings us back to the Second Amendment. In 2022, the United States Supreme Court handed down its landmark decision to New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruen. The court made clear that Americans have a constitutional right to carry firearms outside the home for self-defense. Writing for the majority, Justice Clarence Thomas explained that historically, only a very limited number of locations could be considered sensitive places where firearms could be prohibited. Those locations included places like legislative assemblies, polling places, and courthouses. But after losing in Bruen, New York responded by dramatically expanding the number of locations where carrying a firearm became illegal. One of those locations? Public transportation. Under the New York law, carrying a firearm is prohibited on trains, buses, subways, ferries, in transportation facilities, and in stations like Penn Station itself. So think about that for just one moment. The state has declared Penn Station a sensitive location or a gun-free zone. Throw back to this video on that. But does it actually look anything like the historical locations described by the Supreme Court? Many New Yorkers would probably say no. In fact, concerns about safety inside Penn Station have been making headlines for years. Media reports have described increasing problems involving crime, disorder, drug use, and mentally unstable individuals occupying the facility. Commuters have openly expressed fear about traveling through the station. Even some government officials have acknowledged the problem. Governor Kathy Hochul herself previously described Penn Station in remarkably blunt terms, referring to it as a hellacious and even hellhole. Those aren't the words of Second Amendment advocates. Those are the words of New York's own governor, which raises another question. If a location is so dangerous that public officials describe it as a hellhole, why are law-abiding citizens prohibited from carrying the very tools that could allow them to defend themselves? Critics argue that New York's approach puts ideological opposition to firearms ahead of practical public safety concerns. Supporters of the restrictions argue that more firearms are just not the answer. Either way, one fact remains undeniable. 5 innocent people were attacked. The suspect reportedly had a history of violence, and once again, the people who followed the law were left vulnerable when violence erupted without warning. So what do you think? Should locations like Penn Station be considered sensitive places where firearms are prohibited, or should law-abiding citizens have the right to carry for self-defense in places where violent crime remains a real concern? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoy getting Second Amendment news, make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, and share this video so more people can stay informed about the latest developments impacting your Second Amendment. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.